Okay, so this is 580-401, Establishment of Support Order. A. If a support order entitled to recognition under this article has not yet been issued, a responding state with personal jurisdiction over the parties may issue a support order if, and there's two things. One, the individual seeking the order resides outside the state. Or two, the support enforcement agency seeking the order is located outside the state. Okay, so basically they could have just said the party seeking support resides out the state, and whether it's an individual or a support enforcement agency. Anyway. B. The tribunal may issue a temporary order of support if the tribunal determines that such an order is appropriate and the individual ordered to pay is, and there's a list of 8 things that the individual ordered to pay can be. Okay, so 1, presumed father. 2, petitioning to have his paternity adjudicated. 3, identified as father through genetic testing. 4, an alleged father who declined to submit to genetic testing. 5, shown by clear and convincing evidence to be the father of the child. 6, an acknowledged father as provided by applicable state law. 7, the mother. Or 8, an individual who has been ordered to pay child support in a prior proceeding, and the order has not been reversed or vacated. C, upon finding after notice and opportunity to be heard that an obligor owes a duty of support, the tribunal shall issue a support order directed to the obligor and may issue other orders pursuant to 305 of this article. 402. A tribunal of this state authorized to determine parentage of a child may serve as a responding tribunal in a proceeding to determine parentage of a child brought under this article or a law or procedure substantially similar. And that was all of part 4. All right, part 5. So part 5 is called Enforcement of Order Without Registration. Now, I think this is where it talks about if the person does not contest the registration, then, like, they don't contest, not they don't contest the registration. They don't contest the enforcement, then they don't have to register it. But if they do, then it has to be registered. So this is going to mostly be talking about not court stuff. So I don't think the question will necessarily come from here, which is why I'm going to kind of blow through this quickly, because most of this is going to be talking about other people's responsibilities, not the court or the clerk. The clerk basically doesn't do anything in this article. That they give, they say the clerk. I mean, the clerk is doing a lot because they're doing the orders for the judge to sign, but it doesn't say that. 580-501, employer's receipt of income withholding order of another state. An income withholding order issued in another state may be sent by or on behalf of the obligee or by the support enforcement agency to the person defined as the employer or income payer under 5241 or other debtor. Employer shall include income payer of the debtor without first filing a petition or comparable pleading or registering the order with a tribunal of the state. So this is not the support order itself. This is an income withholding order pursuant to 5241, directed to the employer or income payer. Employer's compliance with income withholding order of another state. A. So this is the duties of the employer. A. Upon receipt of an IWO, the employer shall immediately provide a copy of the order to the obligor. B. The employer shall treat it as if it was issued by a tribunal of this state if it appears regular on its face. C. Except as otherwise provided in subdivision D and 503, the employer shall withhold and distribute the funds in the order complying, which shall specify, and there's a list of 5 things that the IWO has to specify. 1. duration and amount of periodic payments of support stated as a sum certain. 2. The person designated to receive payments and the address to which the payments are to be forwarded. 3. Medical support, whether in the form of periodic cash payment stated as a sum certain, or ordering the obligor to provide health insurance coverage for the child under a policy available through the obligor's employment. 4. The amount of periodic payments of fees and costs for a support enforcement agency, the issuing tribunal, and the obligee's attorney stated as sum certain. And 5. The amount of periodic payments of arrearages and interest on arrearages stated as sum certain. D. An employer shall comply with the law of the state of the obligor's principal place of employment for withholding from income with respect to 1. The employer's fee for processing an IWO. 2. The maximum amount permitted to be withheld from the income. And 3. The times within which the employer must implement the IWO and forward the support payment. So it says the employer shall comply with the law of the state of the obligor's principal place of employment. So that's the choice of law. It's the law of the state where his or her principal place of employment is. All right, I'm losing my voice already, so Siri is going to do 503.
580-503. Compliance with multiple income withholding orders. If an obligor's employer receives 2 or more income withholding orders with respect to the earnings of the same obligor, the employer satisfies the terms of the orders if the employer complies with the law of the state of the obligor's principal place of employment to establish the priorities for withholding and allocating income withheld for 2 or more child support obligees.
All right, so basically what this says is that the employer has to follow the law of the state of the obligor's principal place of employment to establish the priorities for withholding and allocating income. 503. 504 says immunity from civil liability. An employee that complies with an IWO issued in another state in accordance with this part is not subject to a civil liability to an individual or agency with regard to the IWO of child support from the obligor's income. So as long as they comply in accordance with this part, they are not subject to civil liability to an individual or agency with regard to the employer's withholding of child support from the obligor's income. I don't even know what the hell that says, so let's have Siri do it.
580-504. Immunity from civil liability. An employer that complies with an income withholding order issued in another state in accordance with this part is not subject to civil liability to an individual or agency with regard to the employer's withholding of child support from the obligor's income.
505. Penalties for non-compliance. An employer that willfully fails to comply with an IWO issued in another state and received for enforcement is subject to the same penalties that may be imposed for non-compliance with an order issued by a tribunal of this state. 506. Contest by obligor. So this is the only part of this entire section that I remember. An obligor may contest the validity or enforcement of an IWO issued in another state and received directly by an employer in this state by registering the order in a tribunal of this state and filing a contest as provided in Part 6. So that means 20 days